All right. This is Craig LeBlanc with another episode of podcasting highlighting successful entrepreneurs. We have with us Devin Zito, and give you a little background about why we do what we do is we help young entrepreneurs in those early stages of development, and we help them by connecting them with successful entrepreneurs that have that wisdom and have stepped on those landmines and are going to try to help you guys avoid it. Today we have with us Devin. He's one of the guys that we'd love to highlight, a great example of an entrepreneur here at the Louisiana Technology Park. And so, Devin, if you want to just start off by telling us a little bit about your company and what it does, and then we can go into the journey that got you there.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having me part of this. I really appreciate it. So, Teknarus is one of the companies that I'm full-time engaged with, and it's a local here to Baton Rouge, full-service information technology consulting firm. And so what we do with respect to the technology we provide, we have really kind of two parts to the company. One part is what we call our infrastructure and security services division. So what that is more traditional IT. So working on servers and computers and networks, doing tech support, and then of course security consulting in and around that, the infrastructure side of an organization. And then the other side of the business is our custom software services business. So anything from a website to a full-fledged web application, Windows application, app development. We have both graphic designers as well as programmers on staff that build custom software solutions. And so, and of course, on top of that whole suite of things that we provide, any kind of technological consulting that goes along with it. In addition to that, I have a solo law practice, Zito Law, that was started this past year in 2015, passed the Louisiana bar examination, and started practicing law, I guess, in my spare time with respect to what I do otherwise for the technology company.
Yeah, well, now, maybe go back and tell us a little bit of your background, where you came from. I know most people aren't as fortunate as to be born on the west side of Baton Rouge like we are. So if you're just not born there, you're just out of luck. It's an obstacle you have to overcome. But yeah, a little bit, your story of your family, where you came from, and how did you kind of get to where you're at?
Well, as you're alluding to, I grew up in Port Allen. I went to Holy Family School, I guess, for the most of my middle school time. Whenever I left Holy Family, went to Catholic High School here in Baton Rouge. I guess when I was a junior at Catholic High, we moved from Port Allen to Baton Rouge. So I guess I made my exit from the West Bank, either good or bad. I'm not sure which yet. Yeah, finished up at Catholic High and then entered undergrad. And so as I went into undergrad, I think I kind of played the Louisiana college circuit and attended Louisiana Tech for a grand total of a quarter. I attended LSU for a whole semester, after which I went to Marine Corps boot camp and did the Marine Corps Reserves. So when I got back from boot camp for that summer, I went to Northwestern State University and stayed there until I finished. So despite all of those, college swaps and moving around, I graduated in about 4.5 years and found myself into a computer information systems degree program. Not because that's what I set out to do. More or less, I set out to go to law school, which was funny enough. I could have any undergrad degree to go to law school. So I was just looking for something I was interested in. And that's how I found the computer information systems curriculum. So at Northwestern State, that's really a programming curriculum on top of a business degree, which turns out to be a fantastic degree program if if anybody's looking for that kind of thing. Most software developers and programmers in our industry today find themselves in a business-oriented job versus a scientific-oriented job. So I think sometimes that can lend a better fit than maybe a computer science degree would. But long story short, that's how I ended up there. Graduated from Northwestern State at a time, I guess it was late 1997. So at a time when jobs were plentiful, the dot-com boom was in its midst, and I probably, much to credit the industry and probably not me as much, but I probably had 6 or 7 job offers a semester before I graduated. So I was faced with the thought of, okay, am I going to go to law school or am I going to try this technology career thing? And so I figured, okay, I'll give this a shot. If I don't like it, I'll go to law school. ended up working for very early on community coffee company.
That was right out of school?
Right out of school. So I graduated in December of 97. In January, I was working full-time for community coffee in their information services division as a programmer.
As a programmer. Okay.
Yeah. So community coffee, it was a very short-lived experience I had. And, at the time, and I'll come back to those. Those guys are great, but I'll come back to them because you'll see why. But I only stayed with them for 90 days. A job opened up at the place where I did my internship, which is the Baton Rouge General here in town. And so I moved after 90 days to the Baton Rouge General and then stayed there for the most part until starting Teknarus. I did go back to community coffee a year before I started Teknarus, and spent that year with those guys again. So they kind of got their act together after I left and got to be a really, really good place. And so I kind of ended my career working for other people with community coffee, the same place where I started it. So that was kind of neat.
So when did you start your business, or when did you have maybe even go further back? Did you always want to be an entrepreneur, start your business? Is it something from you were little, or?
No, not necessarily. I guess if I could go back to think about anything that I always wanted to do, I always wanted to be a lawyer. I don't know if it was because my mom always worked for lawyers or I was just around a lot of them, but that's what I really always wanted to do. I really started thinking about starting a business whenever I was working for the Baton Rouge General, and I saw how much benefit that the kind of work we did as a technology department, if you will. We were, at the time, we were like a 90-person IT department. But I saw how much the General's business truly benefited from the efficiencies that we were able to put in place by writing custom software and by automating those processes and really spending time doing that. So I thought, wow, there's so much that could be done for small to medium-sized businesses. However, they really can't afford a whole department of people to do it for them, for themselves. So I started thinking maybe there's a path to doing this in that capacity. So I started thinking about that probably in the late 90s, late 2000, I guess, is when I started the company. So with a business partner, my brother-in-law, Chris is his name, but Chris was married to my sister. So he and I kind of had the same thought process as we worked together at the General, and decided, okay, let's do this. And we were doing some sideline work, nights and weekends for family and friends of family already. So we kind of had the start of a business, but we officially started the company in October of 2000 and started running that sideline money through it in anticipation of one day, hopping out and doing it for ourselves.
Now, how long did y'all hang out in that before y'all could go full time?
About 2.5 years or so. Summer of 2003 is when I decided, okay, I'm going to hop out and do it full time. And I thought Chris was going to wait till we had things kind of ramped up, but then he ended up hopping out at the same time as I did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was all interesting very, very quickly. We had a third business partner that joined us early on, who then exited early on as well. But so for the main early days, it was Chris and I, and maybe a contractor here and there. But that's how we got our start.
Yeah. Now, were y'all self-funded?
We were.
Along the way? So y'all never had to get investors or partners for that?
No, we never had any kind of equity partners or anything like that. Not that I'm advocating that that's the wrong thing to do,
right.
Because I go back and think, man, I could have been financially better prepared to start a business. If I could go back, I would probably hang on to my real job as long as possible to make sure that I was prepared for those dark days of hard business. So.
Now, were there any early influences, maybe as an uncle or a child, you were influenced, saw an entrepreneur and saying maybe any history there?
Not that I recall. I knew some business owners, and I thought part of it was some flexibility and some the freedom of doing your own thing. Naively thinking I'd be my own boss.
Right.
In reality, how many bosses do I have today? How many clients do I have? That's how many bosses I have.
Right. So. Now, how old would you have been when you did start it?
So we started the company in 2000. I think I turned 25 in the year 2000. So fast forward 3 years, I'd have been 28 years old at the time I went full time.
Wow. Okay. Maybe tell us about some of those early. Here's a good one. What was something you did not expect starting business? We always leap into something thinking this and find out this.
One of the things, well, and you kind of talking about my age, so everybody would ask, man, how old are you? And I think I looked a little younger than 28 at the time too.
Are you old enough to run a business?
Exactly. No one could, the first questions were, well, where's your office? Like, I don't have an office, and I was like, man, does it really matter? Do I really need an office? I'm thinking I don't have the overhead of an office. It's a good thing, but at that time, I think it's different today, but at that time, that was seen as a bad thing. We weren't as successful or weren't a substantial company because we didn't have a brick and mortar facility to go along with us. On top of that, I was this young looking guy who couldn't possibly be old enough to run a company. And so that was one of the things I was absolutely not expecting.
And you think that's changed a little bit today?
Well, I'm definitely older. Hopefully I don't look my age still. That would be nice. People do tell me that. I don't know if they're just being nice or if that's the case in actuality. But the other thing I think is that we had the economic downturn and hard times several years ago that we all experienced. But I think through that and now that trend to go virtual office or no office, and people are accepting of that, and it's seen as a strength sometimes. Oh, well, you can operate and you can have less overhead, and that's a good thing because you can keep your costs down. So I do see an exact flip. I was like, man, where was that 10 years ago when I needed it?
I know exactly what you mean. If you didn't have a brick and mortar back in the day, you just weren't in business. And today it's a bragging right to say that you've bootstrapped it and you're living off a ramen noodle and you built this thing out your dorm room. It's
absolutely
much more acceptable than back when we started our companies. Well, okay, so that was, you said 2000, you were 28.
Yes.
That would have put you at 2002?
2003, I think.
2003. And so maybe from there, how was it hiring those first employees and really scaling up? In
the fall of 2006, my business partner and I came at a crossroads where he and I were really in thought, kind of moving in two different directions. We were kind of torn between do we grow, get bigger, hire people, grow the business in that capacity, or do we keep it small, bill as many hours as we can, and just keep it small in that way. He came to me and said, "Hey, look, I'm really tired of this owning my own business thing. I think it's time for me to go back to work full time." And so I was kind of hit with the thought process of, okay, what am I going to do now? And we were at a good spot for something like this to happen. We really didn't have any debts. We really didn't have a whole lot of assets either, as far as things we needed to split up. And so I kind of had to decide what was I going to do, And honestly, my first thought was, all right, well, I'll just go get a job. I'll make more money than I've been making anyway, and everything will be good. And so my wife very quickly reminded me, this isn't your decision to make. And she's like, we're going to pray about this, and this is God's business anyway. So if he decides it's time for you to go to job, then you will. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I totally get it. You're right. So I did, and very quickly realized, no, I'm not done yet with this business thing. And it's, I really want to do what I'm supposed to do. So I'm going to stay in it. My business partner was great. I mean, he allowed me to keep the name, and then really he's like, I want my computer, and that's really all I need. And so really I kind of kept everything else going the way it had been going, kept the few customers that I could keep and things like that. And so that was August of 2006. So it was kind of a starting over again at that point for me. And at the time I had a contractor. So it was me and the contractor. The contractor ended up becoming my first employee. Shortly after that, I guess in early 2007, in May of 2007, I should say, Scott Morgan, who is my most senior employee today, joined us as my second employee. And we've just kind of been growing a little bit here and there since then. Contrary to popular belief, whenever, I realized, okay, I'm supposed to stay in this business, it was supposed to get easier, right? Well, not so. Right. In a lot of cases, it really got harder. But at the same time, what of value and of worth is easy. Right. Hard work is what really valuable things is about. So.
Right. Do you still handle most of the new client acquisition where you're...
Today, I do play a heavy role in sales for the company. I honestly have never had a long-term salesperson. We've hired a couple here and there, and for whatever reason, they didn't work out or moved on to something different, and we've never really had a sales force. I don't think that that's necessarily the right way to go about it. We've been very fortunate to get a lot of business by word of mouth, a lot of referral-based business, which I know is a lot of the the best kind to get. But we are at a crossroads as well. And so it's not something that I'm against or something that I'm going to say that we're going to move forward long term in the same way. But yes, I've been heavily involved in the sales and business development aspects of the company forever.
Right. Now, maybe you can speak a little bit on how, when you're growing your company and you get those first few customers, that feedback is critical because keeping them happy and finding out what serves them. What kind of relationship with your customers has kind of formed you along the way?
I think we end up having a very good relationship with our customers. I mean, I still have, the customer that I guess on the support side of our business, that side of our business really was a secondary piece. We started the business to do software development and to do custom software and to be able to really affect, business processes in that fashion. But as most young entrepreneurs, and as I'm sure, we had to do plenty of things that paid the bills. And so the hardware, software support aspects of the business kind of was something that we had skills to do, and it was easy to get that work. So we started doing it. Well, there was a law firm that we did work for in early 2004. And honestly, we still have that customer today. So I think we've built some pretty good relationships and have been able to maintain them. One of the other things too is I made myself totally accessible and still do. It's one of the things that I think some of our customers like about us. Even though we're a little bit bigger than we used to be, they still have total access to me as the owner. I mean, they have my cell phone number. They can call me in the middle of the night. They don't. Not that that's never happened. It has happened. But I don't, I think we've got a good enough relationship where they know that, hey, if something's going wrong, they know how to get in touch with me, and they feel comfortable doing so.
Right. So shifting gears a little bit here, if you could recommend to men starting a business, what could you tell them to prepare them and their family life and being a husband and a father? I know it's difficult to balance both growing a company and fulfilling those two roles, but what's your journey there?
I think it's about priority. We have to put the things in our life in the proper order. And, it's for me and my wife and our family, we decided, okay, our relationship with God's got to be number one. It's always, that takes the number one spot. So we can just go from there. But so next has got to be my family, or, my wife and my kids. That's number two. Even number two to my business and anything else. Number three at that point probably comes my job or my business or whatever you want to call it. And it's about setting those proper priorities and then adhering to them. It's one of the things I love about being in business for myself is that it allows me to make that priority and to prioritize my time and my business's focus and my employees' time, if you will, and to give them that same ability to kind of set up their lives in the same way. Right. And it's not that the business isn't important. Obviously it is. It's lots of my livelihood, all of my employees' livelihood and otherwise. But I think that once you put life in that proper perspective, everything begins to take shape and you begin to be able to focus properly on each one of those things.
Right. So. Now, if the CEO, if your wife were here today, what would she say about you and your business, and maybe to spouses?
First thing she would probably say is, number one, that I'm lucky that I had the business before we got married, because she's probably like risk averse, I guess, or way more risk averse than I am. And so she's just not that, she doesn't have that knack or that stomach, if you will, right, to do the entrepreneurial thing. So she'll tell you she's glad that I did so before we were married, because otherwise she doesn't know if she could have signed off on it. Also too, that it can change. I know that it happens quicker for some people than others, but she's been great. I mean, she's been very, very patient and understanding with, years ago, not so much now, about why I might be working at midnight and not, sleeping or things like that. It's a lot different. I don't do that nearly as much anymore. I'm a night person by nature, so sometimes maybe just for the sake of, but not because I'm forced to, because of the strains of running a business.
Right. If you could maybe give some advice to young entrepreneurs considering business, or maybe maybe advice to those that have kind of jumped off the cliff and have their first few customers, and in those early days, what would be some kind of wisdom you'd like to share with them?
One of the things, and it seems like what you guys at Legacy are doing, it means a lot. And so one of the things I'll tell you about me that was the wrong thing is that I'm very stubborn, and I'm very quick to think that the advice that I'm getting from a seasoned mentor or from an entrepreneur who has been through some of the things that I might go through or have been through, that I'm different. Oh, well, they're talking about them. It's a unique situation. Those kind of things aren't going to happen to me. It's really take some of that advice to heart, and to really be open to the suggestions and to the mentoring and to the advice of not necessarily just older people, but people who have been through those things. Because I wasn't in a lot of cases. And man, lo and behold, if I didn't run into the same exact trap or pitfall that the guy was trying to warn me about, don't be like me and have to learn everything the hard way. That's kind of one of the things, and don't think you're on an island, and I don't know if this is a problem with just men in general or people in general, but I tend to think I'm the only one that suffers with this problem, or I'm the only one that has this issue in my business. And if I would just be willing to share and to talk to some other people about it and to open up and give a little bit about what's going on with me, I will learn very quickly that most of the things that I've dealt with, there's plenty of people who've dealt with the exact things and have either gone around them or gone straight through them and have advice for me. So be willing to be open and talk about those kind of things.
Yeah, guys, I second that emotion. He's right. I went through the same thing. Everything Devin just said, I think, is an epidemic among especially male entrepreneurs. The female entrepreneurs don't struggle near as much with this. They take advice and criticism, and some of the best female entrepreneurs that I've met and interviewed, I can tell they did not have that problem. You could advise them, you could mentor to them. They were much more open to it. And the men in entrepreneurship do struggle a lot from that. And they're leaving a lot of wisdom on the table that's really free to them. So that was a huge piece of advice. Rewind that piece and hear it again if you want to. Let's see what... If you were maybe advising guys in college as far as a degree or as far as, what can you do for internships or exposure you can give yourself?
There's a lot of things that you could do. Obviously, I'm a proponent of education. I went back to law school, as we kind of talked about a little bit. I went back to law school about, 1997 to 2011. So however many years that is. So I do believe in education and furthering your education, but I don't think it's everything. Honestly, I think it's really about doing something that you really enjoy doing. We all have to work in some capacity, and probably a lot more hours than we do maybe anything else. And so if you're not going to enjoy what you're working on every day, then man, what's it worth? But there are companies like us and a lot of companies that I know that hire interns. We look for people who are self-motivated, for the people who want to further themselves and further their careers. And if you can gain the easy stuff, people call it soft skills. They call whatever it is, but you don't have to dress in a suit, but don't be sloppy. Get that part right. That's easy. Get communication properly, emails and phone calls and handshakes and those are the kind of things that the businesses that are willing to hire interns are, if they don't have to think about those things, fantastic. We can help you learn some technical skills and we can help you grow. If you've got a little bit of technology aptitude, if you're in a technology curriculum, then obviously you do. But if I don't have to worry about teaching those soft skills, so to speak, well you're going to be probably 10 steps ahead of most of your peers. Right. So those things for sure. And just being open-minded to the type of business maybe. A lot of times people are thinking, oh, okay, I'm in a computer science curriculum and I'm going to go work for NASA or I'm going to go work for, Pennington or somebody like that. Well, those jobs may not be as plentiful as you think. So have you ever really thought about where most of that software development really happens?
Right.
And it could be in a custom shop like ours. It could be in a big company that hires, 15 to 20 programmers on staff. So.
The last few years we've been exposed to probably approaching 500 college students that we've, in some way, they've attended something that we've hosted. And the soft skills, I can tell you, is one of the more lacking things, whether it be communication or emotional intelligence or, dress code or any of those things. And yet I don't see maybe a venue outside of you chasing it down yourself, picking those skills up. Where would you suggest, or where did you learn a lot of those skills along the way?
That's a good question. I don't know where I learned that. If it was
aside from being from Port Allen,
if it was my mom and dad who instilled that in me, or just something that I just happened to get. No, but one of the things I would say, so there are some people who are doing some things about it. So, and I know that the Baton Rouge area chamber here, and I'm talking about my wife, I'm plugging her organization now, but
absolutely.
But I'm an investor in BRAC, not because she works there, but because I really believe in what they do. But something that this is in the last couple of days that the official communication has gone out. There's an intern program, and it's totally free to the interns, but there's an intern program that they have developed, and I think it's in conjunction with LSU or some division at LSU, but it's like a several week long initiative where they're going to be doing a lunch and learn series. So for interns or potential interns to sign up for this and to be able to go and get these lectures and this training, if you will, that'll be tremendously helpful in those specific areas. It will also put them in touch with potential companies who are doing internships. So things like that are happening, and people are listening. There's a lot of workforce development things happening at the state and local level. I sit on the board for the Louisiana. It's one of the Louisiana workforce boards. It's in the region that we happen to sit in, and this is a new board seat for me. But the Workforce Commission has free training and free things available to students and people looking for jobs. So seek out those kinds of it's out there. And it's just they don't always have the resources to advertise everything that's available. But start looking for those kinds of opportunities, and they're around. The other thing I'll say is, and this is something I tell every one of our employees that I meet with, and obviously we're still small enough for me to be able to meet with all of them. But I tell them, don't expect your employer, be it from an internship or full-time career employer, to be in control of your entire career. We can only do so much for our employees. We can provide them with opportunities. We can provide them with projects to work on and things, and we're gonna get them part of the way to where they want to be in their career. But each individual has to own that career path and own their own career. It's really theirs, and to take ownership and to drive themselves to get where they want to be.
Right. Yeah. One thing I'd like to do, comment on that. Whether you are an employee or you employ others, which means you just work for your customers, perception is everything, you'll find. And you could be having the greatest value in the room, and because the other guy just has a better handshake and dresses better and is a little bit sharper, a better presentation, they're going to go with what the perceived value is, even though you're more valuable, whether you're smarter at programming or have a better product. And most of perception comes from just soft skills. And so anything you can do to develop your soft skills, this program, definitely worth looking into. I'm going to see if we can get some more information, maybe post that.
Absolutely.
Because that's huge.
Part of the interview, I want to go through these 5 M's. So the first one is mentorship, the model, the management, market, and money. So I would love to start with the mentorship and just find out if you can identify any role model or any mentor directly or indirectly in your life, in your business, that you see, this is, for the past years, some of my mentors.
Yep. Probably nothing extremely specific. There have been different people that I've communicated with and have pulled from, and it's kind of one of the things that I've been actively pursuing for, a little while now, probably for the last 6 months or so. Maybe not pursuing hard enough, but knowing that I need to find someone again to start filling that role for me. Because I know that you can't ever, there's never a point in time where I don't think someone needs that sort of thing in their career or their life. To say that I have specifically someone or someone in mind, no.
Yeah. Now, are you part of any organizations or any coaching programs or any business? I'm pretty sure you went through a couple of them in the past 10 years.
Yes, we have had a pretty good relationship with. I mentioned the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. That's one. Louisiana Economic Development is another one. In about 2010, I guess, I started learning, and that was one of the years where I was able to take my head out of the running the business sand for a few minutes long enough to know that there's some other things going on out here and some programs I need to participate in. So in about 2010, we started diving into LED, Louisiana Economic Development, and some of the programs that they had available. So as a result of that, over the several years of different things that either certifications we achieved or programs we participated in with respect to LED sponsorship, I've been for the last, I guess, maybe 7 months, not 7 months, longer than that. I don't know, 7 times, if you will. I think it's every other month. But there's an LED CEO roundtable event that it's sponsored. It's sponsored by LED. It's also sponsored by EO, Entrepreneurs Organizations.
Yep.
And so I've been participating in that. And what that is, it's about 15 or so CEOs, company owners that participate in a every other month meeting that walks you through, different types of business issues, be it financial stuff, marketing, HR, those types of guided discussions. And it's on a weekday morning from 8:30 to noon or 8:30 to 12:30, so like 4 hours at a time. And you do this every other month or so.
And is that more of a hot seat that somebody comes up with an issue and then everybody tries to work through around that issue and maybe comment and give feedback on that issue? Or
sort of, yes. It's more like a guided discussion where everybody gets to participate. Some people it might be, hey, I've got this problem. Here's what I've been dealing with. And then you've got 5 companies that say, well, yeah, we did this. This is how we handled it. It's, it brings up, it gives you the opportunity to bring up different types of things that, for instance, one of the businesses said one of the things they instituted in their business was a huddle call. So, so I tell you, I'm taking notes, and that's something that I took back from that particular meeting and decided to do, and it's really been effective for us. So things
15
like
minutes
that.
Meeting.
It works out to about 11 minutes, 30 seconds a person. Wow. Everybody in the company every morning at 9:30. Here's what I'm working on. Here's what I need. I need to talk to so-and-so today. Can you help me with this? And, 30 seconds a person, 10 minutes or so, we're out. But it really has, and it's the way it's helped us, and we haven't talked about this yet, but I've got 4 employees that live outside of Baton Rouge, so virtual employees, if you will. And it's really helped to keep them engaged as part of the whole team, if you will. So things like that, they're just sharing each individual business owner of varying success. I mean, we've got companies that are at, I don't know, $500,000 of revenue. We got companies that are at like $40 million of revenue, and things like that. So you get different perspectives.
Yeah. And I would love to jump in the next M, which is the model. I would love to talk about that virtual employees and remote workforce. But in the mentorship, just highlighting that, you mentioned that you would love to have someone that can guide you. What do you think are the areas? Is it more in the finances or operations, or is it in the marketing area that you think somebody with wisdom or somebody that you admire can help you with in your business?
Probably a combination or all 3. And so one of the things that I'm actually in the process of setting up an advisory board for my company and selecting those members, probably each one in a different area that maybe you just mentioned. But that's one of the things that's kind of on my task list for this year is to complete.
Great. Well, let's jump into the model. And I'm pretty sure you got started when you started pretty much like a freelance type of thing where you were selling your time, and then you have some projects in each, and then you mentioned about the hardware. So that's a whole different model. So you have the manager services or maybe the mobile development, and then so you evolve in your business model. But what do you find so far to be the most consistent business model that is working in your business right now?
It's really a combination. And so, I talked about that hardware, software support side of the business. That piece kind of came and went several times. And finally, in mid-2007, it came and stayed. And one of the reasons why it stayed is because in that particular side of the business, it's easier to gain recurring revenue agreements, contracts, if you will, with customers who want ongoing support. So that's why we've maintained that side of the business and will likely do so forever, simply because it's steady income for us. Now, the other side of our business is much more project oriented. So we'll sign on a big project to do a web application or a Windows application, and that project might be a month long or 2 months long, and then we'll do another one, or you might have 3 of those going on at a time. And so on that end of the business, it's traditionally a little bit harder to have truly monthly recurring revenue. So those two things, or those two different sides of the business, complement each other really well. And not to mention that, there is some bleed over from one side to the other. Our managed services or support guys a lot of times run into an issue that kind of, this really isn't support anymore. This is a database issue. And now, we have programmers that do database stuff all day long. So we can kind of use both sides of our resources for those things.
But you can support the support team.
Absolutely. and vice versa.
Yeah. And I think it's key to pinpoint on the model, because a lot of the people, especially project-based and a lot of the new technology guys our age, you learn WordPress and you start building websites, and suddenly, I'm in business. But suddenly you realize that there's some cash flow problems, especially if you hire like you start with your contractor, he became your employee, but then you got that fixed expense every month. And the project you build, let's say it was a mobile app, $30,000 for 6 months. And after that, there's no money coming in. And you're like, what am I going to do? So do you suggest spending time in the monthly recurring at the beginning and then opening up for project-based type of fees?
I think in a perfect world, yes. I mean, obviously that, our goal was always to build as much recurring revenue as we can. We've done a pretty good job with that, but it does keep us in 2 different lines of business as well. Another way to do it is to make sure that you outline your projects. I mean, again, hopefully in most entrepreneurs that are going to go off and do project work, project management is huge. You have to pay a lot of attention to planning a project and budgeting a project and outlining the payment phases of a project so that you can kind of control that some. So it's not so much we do work, it's over, we get paid. There's milestones. We do work, we get paid for that. So then you run the risk of, okay, I did all this work and the client doesn't want to pay me. What do I do now? And now I'm in a bigger jam than, I've been paid up to X point. So again, my suggestion is don't ignore the project management cycle and the ability to put in those phases of a project, which are payment points and that goes both ways. That helps clients too. Then clients have a stopping point to see where are we, and they can feel good about the progress that you've made on your website application or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think it's good discussion on project management. You got the Scrum methodology versus the Waterfall, and then the Waterfall, you will never really know when the project's going to be done, especially with the creative clients that you find out there. They started with one requirement and suddenly 3 months down the road, like, what about this and this and this and that? But did you find already a way to, like you say, the milestones? Are you using Scrum to be able to charge per cycle or per sprint, or what's the best way for that?
What I would say is we probably don't always adhere to either or methodology, Scrum or Waterfall, completely. The sizes of projects that we do sometimes aren't large enough to do fully Scrum. Sometimes they're too large to be simple Waterfall. So it's some combination thereof. But what I've found is that communication with that client early and often to let them know what to expect, to let them know, okay, here's why. The clients always want you to be working sooner than you really need to be working. But to build a simple requirements document, and everybody painstakingly go through it. Everybody signs off. The client signs off, you sign off, we talk about it. Wireframes, mock-ups of screens, mock-ups of function, where we can hopefully minimize that moment deep into the project where it's like, what about this feature? And again, it happens. The nature of software development, those things are going to happen. But everything we do is hopefully to minimize those times, because nobody likes to be near the end of a project and say, "Hey, we're out of budget. We have no more money." That is something I would say, if you're looking for that to go away, please let me know how to make it go away, because we've gotten better at it, and we've done a lot of work on our processes and our internal processes to be able to combat those situations. Yeah. But it still happens, but hopefully it's less burdensome.
And what I found so far in like you said, in the software, even in the web, which is same thing as the software, but in a low scale, like a web project is more specific, and you can be very clear on the deliverables. But a lot of the time, especially with like startups or people that raise X amount of money, $250,000, $500,000 to start something, if they're not technical, they start the project, and you as a software company start building for them. But those features and those ideas keep changing, and then it happens 10 months and the project is not done, and half of the budget is gone. And that was all the money that they have. So I think it's critical to spend some time thinking that, if you're coming up with an idea, just have something to see. Is that what you guys offer? Some sort of like, because what happened, I know the thing with coding is you cannot really show the client, but with wireframes and mockups, and you can show the client and save a lot of time. So you're suggesting more to go that route than spending all the time in development and not necessarily having the feedback from the client.
Absolutely, where you can. I mean, obviously, and lots of our work still has a user interface. So we spend a lot of time on user interface. We spend a lot of time on mock-ups, on wireframes. And it is for those reasons, is to make sure that before we start putting the bulk of the effort into it, we've got a comfortable level of understanding.
Yeah, nice. The next M is management. So the daily huddle, you guys probably have a weekly meeting, the monthly meeting. So if you want to describe real quick what's today and Teknarus, what's the management model that you guys run to effectively achieve your stuff?
And we've recently kind of combined some of our team. So we used to have 3 teams. I described 2 earlier. We used to have 3. It used to be that infrastructure services side. We used to have a design team that handled mostly like web and graphic designs items and projects, and then we had that software development or programming team. But what we found is that, when we first set out to do this, our whole goal was the software development side. And so what we at the time never had graphic designers or design staff at all, and we would outsource that piece. Well, we hired designers because the outsourcing model wasn't working for us, and we were really inefficient that way. And what we found was, as we separated those 2 teams by just the force of nature over the number of years of thinking, okay, we're driving more business here or there, we ended up creating that same inefficiency, but only inside our organization. So this year, we've actually combined our design and development groups into one team called Custom Software Solutions. And so that now is a unified effort.
And how many people in that team?
That team is, that we have 5 programmers and 2 full-time designers, 2 part-time designers, and a manager, the manager of that team.
Okay.
So it's me, it's an operations individual, and then manager of the custom software side of the house, and manager of the infrastructure side of the house.
Nice. I'm making notes, sorry.
That's okay.
It's very, very helpful. And I think it gives you an idea for you that are starting out there and listening for this. This may be way, way ahead. But if you go through the 5 M's, you start thinking, okay, how am I going to build my team? And why do we go ahead and share that? But you start thinking, okay, this is the end result. And it's never going to be a fixed model. It's not like you're going to be, okay, this is my management way. I only have groups of 5 people versus 10 people. No, right now that's working for you, having the 10 people, but it's because you have the manager, and then you have, I'm pretty sure you have a platform, like a project management tool you guys use, and different resources, right?
That's a good point that you're bringing that up. Yes, we do. We have a platform that we use. Time tracking is utmost important. We used to do it in spreadsheets. We probably lost so many hours of billable time because people forgot to write it down. Or so you have to get in that habit of, you're in the consulting services world, you have to track your time. Your time is ultimately what you're billing and what you're making money on. Even in a project world, how do you get the price of your project? Well, you scope it out. How long is it going to take you? Time and materials. So if we're not tracking our time and being efficient in the use of our time, then we have no idea what our efficiency is or our profitability should be and things like that. So time tracking, project management is so important.
What tool are you using for both?
We have a third-party tool called ConnectWise. It's kind of industry standard to the IT world. It's an IT company who wrote this software years ago and who then started selling it in the industry. So we've been using it since about the fall of 2009, and it's kind of grown and grown and grown. But that's what we use today. So everything from time tracking all the way through project management and through the process of sending out invoices to our customers is done in that ConnectWise system. We have other software that integrates with that ConnectWise software, for managed services platforms. So the software that we put on computers and servers that help us to manage those items, that talks directly to ConnectWise. Those kinds of things all integrate. And then outside of that, we use QuickBooks like most of the rest of the small business world to do accounts receivables and payables and things like that.
Yeah, have you heard about Slack, or you guys use Skype or Slack or any of those?
We have kind of bounced in and out of different things. We don't use Slack. We have considered it today for internal communications with our staff that's here in Baton Rouge, as well as the staff that's outside of the office, that the 4 employees that live outside of Baton Rouge. Skype for internal communication. So, any given day, we've probably all had 3 or 4 different Skype conversations, video conferencing or audio or both. And then for external meetings with customers, so a lot of times, we'll have a conference call or a screen sharing session with a client. We use Join Me for the external ones. We've tried. I really, really wanted to use Link, which is now Skype for Business. Yeah. And I'm waiting for Microsoft to fully combine those 2 products. But yeah, so we've kind of tried a few different things, but so far we've kind of settled on Skype for internal and Join Me for external. Great.
Next, Sam, is market. So you say, of course, you got a very diverse type of clients, but I would love to learn how do you went from 3-4 years ago, the clients that you had, and now you say a lot of that is referrals. But if you could, outside of referrals and customer, word of mouth, what would it be other technique to reach this market in your industry?
Well, a lot of business to business marketing. Social media is huge. I don't think that there's very many companies still that are totally ignoring social media. So Facebook, Twitter, some companies are using LinkedIn, Instagram. It depends on your type of business, but I think those things are still very important to kind of drive traffic and business back to your organization. Our website is a tool that we use that's actually we're working on making better, because today I don't think our website tells you a great story about who we are exactly. So things like that. And another thing too is that we've learned that we haven't done enough marketing, we haven't done enough sales. So we're engaging a marketing firm in the very near future to help us determine, hey, how do we tell our story? How do we best get the word out to our potential customers as to who we are? And, so how do we market ourselves? How much marketing versus sales in the type of business that we're in? It's a lot of research on numbers. Who are our clients? Where are they? What industries are they? That kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear that, because even myself and a lot of people that are my age are starting now, we go talk to consultants or experts or veterans, and one of the main things is like, okay, so what's your target market? Yep. And what do you want to focus on? Like, I had no idea. Yeah. And so even you've been in business how many years now?
This is full time. This will be about 13 and a half years.
Yeah.
And so we took a long time. It's so hard to, again, some companies take 20 years to get there. Some people do it in 2. We didn't do it in 2, and we're still not there. But what I'm getting at is that you really, as the business owner, have to spend time working on your business, not in the business, but on the business, or partner with people to help you do that. Find the resources, find the dollars, find the
whatever it
takes to work on the business. Get your goals written down. if that's a business plan, if it's a strategic plan, if it's a marketing plan, whatever it is, you have to start articulating those goals and writing them down so that you can gauge, are we hitting goal? Are we even close? Or our goals even remotely possible? So it's, and it took us a long time to feel like we were at that point to where, okay, I can breathe and I can spend some time working on those things.
The last one is money, and Craig and I, we've been really enjoying a book called Profit First. So if you're listening for the first time and never heard about that, go ahead and just grab a copy of the book. But the premise of the book is just putting profit first, and you get a $10,000 check from your client. You go ahead and deposit 10%. If that's what you want to have as profit, then deposit 10%. Then next is your taxes, of course. You want to make sure that you have that clear. Then you got your owner's compensation. And then lastly, your operating expenses. And that covers marketing, that covers your people or XYZ. But bottom line, I think now that you say that you feel more comfortable to work on your business, do you think that that's another note that I have right here? When you say you went through the little episode with your partner and then you ended up staying, you say, well, I wish I were more prepared financially. What would it be that role key that money plays into the whole game in personal finances? It's
really tough, and it's one of the things I've struggled with a lot over the years because most of even my employees that know me, they know that it's, I'm not here because of the financial aspect of being a business owner. I'm not here to become wealthy as a business owner. And if so, I've failed miserably at this point. But the reality of running a business and owning a business and employing people and all of those things that you just mentioned that go along with it, it takes money to do those things. So you really, really looking at the costs, looking at what it really takes and focusing on that from day one. What are my operational costs? How do I keep those low? What's it going to take? How do I set aside or make room for profit and growth in those things? And I think if, just accepting the fact that, hey, I don't have to be about money, but money is important and I have to focus on it, and I tell my staff all the time, hey, look, I'm talking about dollars because if we don't, then we all can't get paid tomorrow or whenever payroll is, but it's not because all I care about is the financial aspect of the business. It's just that if we don't do that and do it properly, we have no business to all depend on. So.
Yeah, I would love to close and just with that same line, of course, legacy, that's the name of the nonprofit. And I love the name. I was attracted since day one, but we talk about money. Now we both agree that money is just a tool then to get something done. So you talk about your why saying, supporting you on, okay, you stay up at 9 working on the business and whatever, but you say, what do you think is the why for all of this then? It's that legacy after, 20, 30 years. You have 1 year in your business law practice now and then the business. So what is it all about? If money's just a tool, what are we heading to?
So, the reason why I've stayed, the reason why I've continued in the business is because I really enjoy the aspect of being able to provide jobs for other people. So I'm not just taking care of me and my family, but there's 14, 15 other people that we're taking care of them and their families as well. And so you'll see our tagline right now says technology with impact. Well, what that impact means is that we're impacting people and people's lives. So not just mine, our staff, their families, our customers, so it's about being able to positively, I hope, impact the lives of other people. And that's really why I continue to do this. There's something meaningful in it to me to be able to play that role and to be that part of so many people's lives.
Fantastic. I appreciate it. If somebody wants to learn more about your company and you, what's the best way for doing that?
Teknarus.com. I'll spell it Teknarus.com. And, our contact information's out there. That's where you will find us.
Appreciate it, Devin. Anything else you want to add before we close?